Hello everybody and welcome back to the lab. Welcome to the lab off hours. Today we're going to be returning to the issues that we were seeing with the new plugin refactor and continuing on where we left off, which the last time that we were working on this, we were looking at some of the challenges that we started to incur as we changed our read function. Here we go. As we changed our read function over to this new plugin approach, we fixed an issue where the message contents were far more than what they used to be in the terms of IRC, whereas in the last episode, we were looking at a message that contained the command, the channel, as well as the message, whereas we have fixed this to just be the message itself. And I did do some testing off of camera just to make sure that this was continuing to work for ping pong. Confusingly, you will see the pong message, but you will not see the ping message. And so what I would like to do is I would like to add a log.println. And here we would like to say ping. And we could also include let's do that. So ping and then and this is more or less the part where I kind of go So let's actually move this up so that we can have access to it for this piece, and this will be log.printf now. And this will be contents. So what was effectively happening is that in the log message, we were seeing the pong message, but we were not seeing the ping message. So wanted to correct that really quickly. And let's go to pong definition, make sure that that is indeed doing what I want it to do. Seems like it. Yeah. Oops. All right. So coming back up to here, now where we left off with this last time was that we had solved the message issue, and so our command handler was doing what we expected it to do, but we were not listening for any messages coming from the inbound channel. So this inbound events channel is effectively sitting unused at the moment. And so what we need to do, we had kind of standardized around this idea of start, kind of being the starting point for this IRC client. Going back up to here. And so this start function is run inside of a Go routine. And there's a couple of things that we could look at for not doing this, possibly. But there were some ideas that were kind of bubbling around my head at the end of the last video, trying to figure out with the changes that we're going to have to make, is that really necessary? So let's take a look. Let's take a look here. Let's go to definition. And more or less my thought was that we could potentially encompass both of these into a pair of Go routines. So perhaps if we did something like go func, if I can type, new keyboard, hello, and let's do that. So go func for this, and then if we also did, and I will fix the formatting here in just a moment. So we did another go func for. Let me go ahead and fix that actually, because that is going to bother me. Yeah. For received message equals, there we go, range of, and this would be the IRC inbound events. And I need to get faster at this keyboard. This is kind of slowing down my thought process. So in this particular case, we are receiving the message from the bot with intent for it to go out to IRC. So what we need to do, thinking about this properly, is I think we actually could just do IRC dot priv message. Now I was trying to think if there was any reason for us not to have these as priv messages, and I can't think of anything. Potentially? Oh yes, and then we'll need a return nil. The reason that the compiler wasn't complaining before was because we effectively had an infinite loop, so there was no way to exit out of this function, and the compiler was like, yeah, okay. Okay, so this is read loop for receiving messages from IRC, and this is more or less a read loop for receiving messages from the bot. Now my question though is, because this is effectively turning into a function that exits immediately because of the two go routines, could we? I don't think we'll need to do this anymore since we're not infinite looping. And then more or less this would get us back down into the kind of what is considered the main loop. I think that will give us what we want. Maybe. Let's try it. Let's see what happens. Source our token. Go run main.go. Okay. So now we are going to need a new window, and we're going to need twitch.tv, medlabs. Technically I need the chat, so do I have the pop-out chat? Nope, I don't have pop-out chat. That's okay. All right. Medlabs. There we go. I'm just bringing up Twitch over here on the side. So if we do that, we pop out chat. Well, I say we pop out chat, but the window is too small. Let's bring that out. Let's just bring this over here. All right, so if we do our hello, we are now getting our world. Aha! And there she goes. Okay, so that was a relatively easy fix, all things considered. The problem was simply that we needed to add a receive loop, and that is also working fantastic. So all we needed to do was, we are technically not doing this part properly, which is okay. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but we can definitely make that a little more consistent. But a relatively simple fix. We must read from IRC, and we must also be listening for inbound events coming from the bot in order for that part to work. So that's not bad. And of course, I did forget to commit those changes from last time. So we're going to gcommit. And this is going to be add read loop for events from the bot, fix message parsing in IRC. There we go. All right. Relatively quick and painless, at least on that one. But I still have one very major gripe, if you will, with this this particular piece, which is more or less testability. So I've been thinking about this, and I've been thinking about if there were ways to get testability easily. If there was a way that I could effectively wrap a WebSocket connection, turn it into an IO read-write closer, if that would help me any for, well, anything. But what I started looking at, read message. The two things that, or the two, I should say, functions that that I need to be mindful of here is read message, which is pretty close in terms of like an IO reader, because if you look at var r, which is an IO.reader, actually let's look at the read-write closer. So if I go to definition for the read-write closer, we have a reader, a writer, and a closer. And a reader is more or less a function that reads data into the given byte array, or the byte slice. And it returns in or error. In being, was it the number of bytes read, I think? Yeah. So, more or less the problem here is that, or the difference, I should say, the difference between this and read message is that read message returns the bytes as a return type. It doesn't mutate a variable, which is okay, but it doesn't give us anything from the perspective of, you know, being able to change the type. Or not being able to change the type, but being able to satisfy the read-write closer interface. And then with write message takes a message type and a byte array for data, returns an error. Whereas if we come back up here and we go back to our R, which is an IO dot read-write closer, the closer part is just for the close method. So here we go. Whereas the writer implementations, it writes directly to the variable given. So it's kind of a difference of style, if you will, or a difference of approach in terms of the Gorilla WebSocket library versus an IO read-write closer. If we had an IO read-write closer, then more or less what I think I would be able to do from a testing perspective is replace con with io.readWriteCloser, and then for the, or even just io.readWriter, perhaps. And then I could swap out in test, I could swap out the connection for a byte buffer. I could swap it out with a custom class. I could do all kinds of things. Alternatively, what I could do as well is I could just create my own interface. Now, I'm not entirely sure if this is the way that I want to go, but if we did this as a type WebSocket type WebSocket interface, the methods that I would have to have here would more or less have to be read, which returns a slice of bytes, or returns an error. So you'd have read, write, which takes a slice of bytes and returns an error. Not that. And then a close method. We could then create a wrapper, if you will, around WebSocket connection, which basically does the same thing, except that it tweaks the signature of the methods ever so slightly. So if we did something like if we did an implementation of type Gorilla WS is a struct. And for this one, con would become a field inside of here. We would probably have the same thing, sync.mutex. And then we could have all of our methods. Func, and this would be ws gorilla ws, oh dear, read, which returns a byte and an error, a byte and or an error. And I'm being lazy, so we're just gonna yoink. Oh dear, oh dear. Oh, my hand was ever so slightly off on the home row, because of course it was. WebSocket write and close. Yes. Can you tell I'm still getting used to the new keyboard? Kind of am. And so what this could do is more or less I think could more or less just be, if we go down to read, we could just grab this. I am basically going down the path of implementation at this point. Message error. I'm basically kind of sort of convincing myself that this is a plausible idea, if that makes any sense. So we could do like that. And then this could return ws dot write WebSocket dot text message, and then was it right? Yeah, maybe. Oh no, it'd be ws.con.write. Yeah, here we go. So we would return, just get that out of the way, paste that, delete to the end of that, and bring that down like so. And that just returns an error. So there's that. And then for here, we would just do ws.con.close. Oh, right. It wouldn't be this. It would be... We could simplify that such that instead of it being a byte slice, we could make it a string if we really wanted to. But this is just more or less to see the possibility in implementation and see if it's something that I would actually want to let's see here. There we go. Just want to make sure that that is... So the thought, if I can get this thought out of my head, the thought is more or less that if I created my own interface, that would more or less give me something very similar to IO read write closer. But the thing about this though is that this is so close to an IO read write closer that it probably might as well should be an IO read write closer. And I'm trying to think if there's any reason why I wouldn't want to do that. I can't think of one. And alternatively, also on the testing side of things. On the testing side of things, that would allow me to effectively set up a byte buffer in exchange of the connection. This also means that the connection itself would have to be initialized outside of IRC, and basically outside of anything. Is that something? Is that something that I would want to? I feel like the answer would be yes. I'm mostly just trying to think about what that would actually look like. But alas. So let's do this. Let's do reader. Oh wait. We need to import IO. Reader, writer, closer. So if we ended up with reader, we need this method. Implementations must not retain P. Let's see here. Okay. Read reads up to length P bytes into P. It returns the number of bytes and any error encountered. Even if read returns in less than P, it may use all of P as scratch space during the call. If some data is available but not length P bytes, read conventionally returns what is available instead of waiting for more. Yeah. So for us, if we were to change this into destination, which is an array of bytes, and this would return int or error. Right? Did I have that right? Oops. Oh. I didn't copy properly. Grab this. In is an int and error is an error. Yes, indeed. So here we would want ioutil dot. Is it ioutil or is it? Oh, I cannot remember. Golang copy byte array. Is it indeed just copy? Yeah. Perfect. Okay. So we would just want to do a copy of message into destination, and we can return length of message error, more or less, if we wanted to satisfy the interface. For the writer, I think it's more or less the same thing. It returns the number of bytes written and any error incurred that caused the write to stop early. So we could more or less do a similar thing. Int and an error. Ooh. New keyboard, who dis? And for this, so this is returning just an error. So we want to do len of message to bs.con.write message. And now if we change this to not like that, oh my goodness. I'm not entirely sure what button I hit there. io.read write closer. Then that should give us everything that we need from a connection standpoint. The challenge being that we now are more or less not accounting for connect. And I think that's it. We may have to play around with this a little bit, but I am going to have to take off for now. So thank you all so much for stopping by. Thank you for stopping by the lab. We are going to pick this back up in the next episode, and hopefully in the next episode, we are actually going to have tests available for this code base. So until next time, stay curious, and I'll see you all then. Cheers.